After grinding to the top 500 with some of the best finals players in the world, I have learned that there's one thing that separates the great teams from the best ones: decisions. The first and one of my favorite calls has to be the stagger. While the call won't be useful in most of the qualifying rounds, it is a great tool that you can use when applying some other calls later in the video. And once you reach the finals, it is a call that can win you a cash out and even the game. First, let me explain respawn mechanics real quick. When an enemy dies, they have 25 seconds before they can use their coin and respawn back in with their teammates. If the last remaining teammate dies, the whole timer resets and the entire team needs to wait an additional 25 seconds before they can respawn together. This means that in an ideal situation, if you manage to wipe 2 team members of the enemy team, you could wait up to 24 seconds before finally killing the last one, as this will mean that the enemy team will spend almost 50 seconds in the respawn screen, which more often than not will be enough to secure the cash out. Now, if you mistime the timer, or if one or both of the enemies end up using the coins during the whole stagger, make sure that you kill that last player that you were staggering to force the enemy team into either a 2v3 for the cash out, a recovery play for their teammate's statue, or best case, them waiting out their teammate's respawn timer for an additional 25 seconds before they can even re-engage as a full team. While strategies like the stagger has been seen in tons of games in the past, as for the finals, the stagger is still in its infancy stage, and maybe if we give it enough time, it will be mastered to the degree that we saw in professional Overwatch. That being said, the stagger might be hard to coordinate if your team isn't on board or if you don't keep track of the enemy's respawn time, so I normally try to make it a habit to keep an eye on the timer at the top of my screen and then subtracting 20 seconds after the first member died to give myself some margin for error. Staggering works both in the qualifying rounds and the final round, though you'll find that it is a lot easier to manage it when you're only keeping track of one team at a time. So let's take a look at the 9 other tips that will win you more games in ranked. But first, dude, what am I supposed to do? I'm constantly at high ping, getting shot behind walls, stuttering, and just straight up lagging. I need something to fix this. Let me try GearUp. I heard this helps my ping. When it comes to gaming, sometimes the ping or just overall performance is horrible because of poor routing between the client and the server. I wish I could just live right next to the game server, but that's not always possible. But there is a workaround: GearUp Booster. Let me tell you a few things about GearUp. Not only is it incredibly easy to use, with just one click your game is boosted without you needing to do anything, but it also makes your network connection a lot more stable, meaning you won't get those random jumps between 50 or 200 ping. Your ping will stay at the lowest possible with no extra spiking at all. And of course, GearUp is safe to use, so you won't get banned for using it in any game. But you might be thinking, what about us console users? What are we supposed to do about the lag? Well, no worries, because they also have a gaming router, the HyperRev. And the best part about the HyperRev is that it's just plug and play. So with that said, to my PC and even console users in the comments, I have a challenge for you. After using GearUp or HyperRev, what's the lowest ping you could get? And if you get something insane, let me know in the comments below because I'm curious to hear. But make sure to click the link in the description and check out GearUp today. Thank you so much, GearUp, for sponsoring this video, and let's get on with it. So let's go over some incredibly strong strats or calls that you can abuse to get ahead in the ranked qualifying matches. And then we're gonna circle back to some final strats for the end of the video. First, one of these is, of course, don't cap just because you can. If you are in a significant lead, or maybe even in the second place in the game, and there's no cash out going on or about to go off with, say, 1 to 2 minutes left in the game, don't unlock a vault or start a cash out. Starting the cash out just introduces a lot more risk, as you can go from guaranteeing a qualification to having someone else steal it from you and deny you from qualifying. It might be tempting to go for a cash out in the final minutes of the game, especially in ranked, where finishing first will give you more fame points, but we are talking about a very small potential amount of points here. I mean, you will earn 690 fame points if you finish first in every qualifying round, and then win the finals of a ranked tournament, which requires you to pull off some riskier plays, where you might have to fight off all the other teams in the lobby, and if you do fail, you end up getting no points or even losing points. For a little bit of perspective, if you finish second place in all of the qualifying rounds and then win the finals, you'll still earn 590 points, which is great to get on the board, especially with way less risk involved. And if you're using the strats that I'm gonna mention later in this video, odds are you aren't even going to be struggling in those final rounds anyways. Remember, during the qualifiers, all that matters is that you and your team are in the top 2. Being in first place is a bonus, but the game is called the finals, not the qualifiers. You can play the laugh track now, Shiv. With this in mind, there's an almost unspoken rule between the teams who are in the lead. If both of you do well, neither of you will go out. So if you are in the second place, holding the cash out and have to fight off the 3 other teams at the same time just to stay alive, make it a priority to kill any of the 2 teams that aren't in the lead before even thinking about wiping out the first place team. Hell, if they push in and start stealing the cash out in front of you, you could just let them. An additional, say, 22,000 to their team might not make a difference, but if your team dies and either of the bottom 2 teams end up stealing the cash out in the last moment, you obviously won't qualify. Next up, if you are 1 or even 2 men down, but still have a cash out in your name and there isn't enough time for a full wipe or for your teammates to coin back and join, start playing to stall. Don't try fighting the entire enemy team or try to make a heroic last stance. Just try denying them the chance of actually stealing the cash out. Most of the time, for as long as you are alive, they won't be going for the steal because there's a huge risk of you killing them when they're going for the cash out. If you get a chance to pick off the person starting a steal, kill him, but ultimately make sure you stay alive. Just make sure to throw yourself at them if they start sticking a cap in the final moments of the cash out. If you're in a situation where you have, say, less than a minute left of the game, the vault isn't unlocked, and the cash out is so far away that you won't reach it by running there, and you need to start a cash out and finish it to actually get back in the game, this is the time to set up a passover. Start unlocking the vault, and while you're waiting for it, have 2 of your teammates run towards the cash out you want to play beforehand. Let your teammates position themselves where each team member has about a third of the necessary distance to the cash outs between them, obviously keeping height and other obstacles in mind, and then throw the vaults between each other instead of running that entire stretch. You will save a lot of precious seconds, and in more cases than not, you will actually be able to start another cash out where you wouldn't have a single chance otherwise. Another great tip is that if you're the dominant team of the group and you are comfortably sitting in the first place, this puts you in a unique position of having complete say in how the lobby actually ends up. You can directly affect which teams proceed to qualify with you and who falls out. If you're in the final qualifying round, you will be able to decide which team you want to play against in the final round. So if there's a team you really don't like for whatever reason, like let's say they teabagged you or BM'd you, or they were just really hard for you to deal with during the qualifiers, then you can put all of your time and energy and effort into denying them into getting into the finals. Figure out where they are and get involved in their fights and help the teams that they're fighting in fighting them. Or if you have a lot of control of the lobby and one of the other teams in the lobby are hitting a cash out, which will stop the team that you are targeting from actually qualifying, don't even go for the cash out in the first place. Instead, help that one team defend it. Hell, if you third party and manage to wipe up all the teams in the lobby, just let the timer go out just to deny that one team a chance to get more points. If you don't have a specific target that you want to grief, you can still apply the same strat the other way as well. If there is a team in the lobby who's really bad, or maybe they're a man down because they disconnected, because they crashed or something, it'll be in your best interest to bring them with you for as long as possible, especially if you're in the final qualifying round. If you get the chance to, try to help them win fights and try to help them get the cash out by killing any other teams that might be around it. Hell, if all the other enemies are dead and you have the cash out, you can even decide to die or gift the cash out to the last team just by walking away. Because if that team is running a weak, a non-meta comp, or have proven that they just don't know what they're doing, this will make your job a lot easier in the next qualifier. And if you bring a trash team into the finals, it'll be an absolute cakewalk. Like, yeah, sure, you're in the finals, but the game was actually decided in the third qualifier. But anyways, once we get into the final round, another overlooked detail of respawning is that the state of the game will affect how close a team will spawn. For example, if there is a cash out in progress, a team will spawn closer compared to if there wasn't. And the less time is left before the cash out is done, the closer teams will spawn. You can use this to your advantage, where if you do end up wiping the enemy team and have a chance to put the vault into the cash out as they are respawning, just wait a few additional seconds for them to respawn as far away as possible before you actually put the vault in. In most cases, this will force the enemy team to run across the entire map over 200 meters, which could give you upwards of half of a minute on the timer before you even need to fight them. Understanding how the respawns works is vital, as some respawns or positions in the game are so strong that properly abusing them can give you an entire cash out cap for free, which you definitely want in the finals. For example, there are set spawn points on every map, and once you've played the game for long enough, you should have learned all of them. The game will always try to avoid letting an enemy team spawn right on top of someone else, so you can block the enemy team's spawn just by standing close enough to it, which forces them to spawn somewhere else, generally farther away. A great and well-known example of this will be Hospital on Seoul. There's only a handful spawns of the outer side of the hospital, past the bridges, so if you have two team members playing in or on top of the hospital, the enemies will be forced to spawn on the other side of the bridge, where they will be forced to cross a large open path just to get to the other side of the bridge and the hospital and the cash out. And you can make your spawn even worse first by placing one player on top of the roof of the building on the other side of the bridge too, as this will force them to spawn even farther away. Just keep in mind that if there isn't a lot of time left on the timer, odds are they're going to spawn right under the crane, so that one player probably wants to get out of there as soon as possible. But if you don't block the spawns at all and you have all your players on top of the hospital, odds are they're going to spawn on the so-called green and actually be exposed to your line of sight right after spawning. You can line up grenades, nukes, or other explosives on this very spot, and after their short respawn protection has faded, get free damage and maybe even 1, 2, or 3 knocks. Another great example of that is this spot on Skyway Stadium, where they could either spawn where they did in this clip or on the hospital on the other side. If they do spawn right here, all you need to do is throw a few grenades and either force them to run the long way around or kill them as they jump head in. Just make sure that you have one person on the opposite side of your building to stop the enemies from spawning closer on the other side, and you'll be golden. And those were 10 tips that will win you a lot more games in Ranked. I'm going to be covering some more Ranked tips specifically for solo queuing on this channel soon, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Peace out.